Welcome back! I'm Tyler, you're watching Scarfing Scarves, and welcome to another installment of I'm Telling Tyler, our write-in show where you can ask me questions, tell me the latest tea, and so long as it's at least Lolita adjacent, you can send your tea and or queries to imtellingtyler@gmail.com. Alright, let's start with our first submission of the day from A. And A says, I've only recently been getting into Lolita. I started learning and reading about it mid-2019 and got my first dress on my birthday, December of the same year. While my closet has slowly been growing ever since, so did my insecurities with this particular fashion. As I work on and wear more coordinates, which funnily enough is just 3 at the moment, the more I start to feel like I shouldn't be wearing or enjoying Lolita at all. There are a handful of reasons why I've started to feel this way, but it all comes down to one major thing: comparison. I'm no stranger to comparing myself to others, but I really feel like this takes the cake. I do not have a body like the models I see in promotional pictures. I do not have the money to buy big brand dresses. I'm not as old or as mature as every other Lolita in my comm or Lolita in general. The list can go on. But so far, these are the strongest things that come up in my head when I start to feel sad about myself. But what makes me sad the most is that I enjoy this fashion. I like wearing cute clothing. I like feeling free and happy when expressing myself through clothing. I guess it's when it comes to getting social with it, it just crashes down on me. I hate being so alone, but I'm starting to feel like I shouldn't be social to begin with. Even now, just typing this email makes me so nervous, but I may as well reach out in the way I am most comfortable, with anonymity. I should have disclosed this sooner, but reading back, I don't really know where to insert this, but I am a minor. I'm sure all that I've written beforehand seems silly now. I doubt this whole email even really makes sense, but all in all, I just don't know how to cope with being so alone in a hobby that's made me so happy throughout the time I've been in it. Of course, I don't want to invade close, adult-only spaces since I'm uncomfortable with that myself and only trust my local comm, unless of course they don't want me there either. But it's online that's so nerve-wracking to me. I am nervous to post my cord/Floordinate pictures in fear that I don't look good enough or that what I'm wearing isn't expensive enough to even be likable to people. On the flip side, I want the helpful input other people may give me though. I guess this just stems from a lot of my eating disorder related traumas. One thing that I've been telling myself is that if my outfit doesn't look good, I may as well try to look good myself. And it has been such a recurring thought that I don't eat at all for hours, even days, until I think I will look good in a dress or even just in general. My sincerest apologies if this is way too much for you to cover or even read, but it would mean a lot if I were to get your thoughts on all of this. Thank you for your time if you ever get to read this. Signed, A. P.S. In case this is worrying or alarming, I can assure you that I have seen a therapist about my eating disorder. I'll bet she wasn't much help, but that's a whole nother topic. Alright, A, given that there was a lot of information here, I'm just going to sum up what we just heard. And what I'm hearing is that you've been in this fashion for about a year now, you have about 3 coordinates, you're only 17, and you're feeling really isolated and alone. You're suffering from this fracking plague of comparison to what you see on online spaces as the perfect ideal Lolita, and you're comparing your physical body as well as your wardrobe to this just completely impossible ideal. You just feel like you can't live up to this impossible standard, and it's taking a real toll on your mental and physical health. And I would especially like to focus on the eating disorder that this is fed into. And while people in your age group and beyond, because plenty of adults have eating disorders, God knows I suffered one in adulthood, you're at an especially vulnerable age when you're still trying to come to terms with who and what you are. You're still searching for an identity and just journeying your way through a world that you're not entirely familiar with, that people have trod before you and look like they know everything and have everything figured out. And from what I'm reading from this, you're feeling incredibly insecure in an environment that you don't feel like you belong in because you're not perfect. And you've taken that out on your body. While I know that eating disorders strike people of all genders and ages and creeds, I hate that something as freeing and as magical as Lolita can be a double-edged sword for someone who is susceptible to such things, that these smaller sizes and these perfectly photoshopped models and these standards that Lolitas from the exterior of the community coming in see as what they're supposed to live up to, but immediately find impossible because it is, that adds fuel to whatever was lurking below the surface before. And it is incredibly upsetting to me that something that has made such an amazing difference in my life, on the flip side, could hurt someone so deeply. And it's incredibly upsetting to me that you have been denied the magic and the wonder that is this fashion and its associated community because of these underlying insecurities that have permeated your life. It's especially hard when you're in that age range. When you're in those late teen years, things are incredibly intense. You're navigating a world that you are unfamiliar with around people that seem to know everything, people that seem to have everything figured out. And let's encapsulate this in the Lolita community. You're coming from the outside in at a very vulnerable age when it comes to your identity and how you see yourself in the world and how you interact with it. So you're coming in from the outside and seeing all these Lolitas that you describe as in their 20s and older, and you compare yourself to them and you feel you measure up short. So it is fully understandable that you would be having these feelings, and it makes me so sad to see you constantly badmouth yourself throughout this message. Like every single time you express a sincere emotion, you cut yourself off at the knees, at the end, by denigrating it in some way. And I understand that's kind of a coping mechanism. You can reject yourself before anyone else can. Maybe it's because of my own personal struggles back around your age with isolation and friendlessness, but this hit me kind of hard, and I just can't help but feel for you and the pain you must be going through to have written something like this. With all that said, I do want to say that as dark as things seem right now, and as much as these insecurities of yours have taken form in your physical and mental space and made you shrink, there is so much potential and hope for you. There are so many people waiting to meet you and waiting for you to add to their lives. The truth is that where you are right now is but a step towards where you're going. You aren't just a static piece of art that's finished. You're a painting in progress. And soon, sooner than you even believe possible, things will change. Things will change and you will progress through this world in ways you will never see coming. Instead of comparing yourself to these impossible standards, glossy covers, Instagram photos, filtered nonsense from people who don't even look like that in real life, it is better to focus on the fact that what you represent is so much more than you can even begin to know. You talk about having 3 chords like it's nothing. There are so many people every single day that I get comments from talking about how they would love to enter the fashion, but they're scared, or they don't have the money, or they don't feel it would look good on them. And here you are, 3 chords in, a fully fledged Lolita, and you're looking down on yourself for not having some expansive all-brand wardrobe. I know this isn't particularly funny, but I just feel that if this has impacted you to the extent that it is eating away at you physically, that is fed into your eating disorder, then we need to address this at its core and understand that you right now are enough. Fear of judgment is normal. It doesn't matter how brave you are, how big your wardrobe is, how many friends you have. Everyone has that same chip in their armor. Everyone has something that they're afraid of. And your fear of getting any further into this community, of posting your coordinate or floordinate pictures, that's normal too. And if you're not comfortable with that yet, you don't have to do it. I'm not going to force you into the limelight and demand that you immediately change everything about how you see yourself or how you interact with this community, but I do want to make sure that you're not posting for the right reasons. As often as I like to lambast the Lolita community for being a vicious gathering of heathens, the community on the whole is actually one of the most accepting, friendly, open, magical communities there is on the internet. Like, Lolitas are such a passionate, fantastic bunch of people from all walks of life. And as for the darker sections of the community, which every community has, they're such a micro minority. I have to go looking, okay? When it comes to LWLM, which is what I'm presuming you found this through, I have to go looking, okay? I'm looking for nonsense, okay? I could easily avoid it if I wanted to, but I know where the nonsense resides and I walk my happy little ass into it. And from what I've seen, unless you do some heinous nonsense, Lolitas are quite a nice bunch. They're very polite to a fault, to the extent that I have to play whack-a-mole with the preverts that threaten this community every fracking day. That is how nice Lolitas are in general. And do we have our tag groups and our drama groups and our nonsense? Yes, so does every other community. You know what we don't do? We don't call SWAT teams on people like on Call of Duty, okay? We're not that bad. Lolita is not that bad. The Lolita community is not that bad. I'm going to regret saying that on record, but here we go. Tune in tomorrow for someone blowing an absolute gasket in some comment section, but the Lolita community in this moment right now, here specifically, is not that bad. The vast majority of the Lolita community, I know I just said it, but I'll say it again, is actually one of the best communities you could possibly join. It is such an incredibly supportive group of passionate people, and it has made such a difference in my life and the lives of the people that I've spoken to about it. There's something about this fashion and its community that is enduring. It continues despite decades, despite changes in trend and style and what have you. Lolita attracts a strong type of person because it takes some inner strength to wear this. And that's what I want to tie back into you. As much as you're hurting and as small as you feel right now, you still had the strength to wear something that a lot of people would be too afraid to even touch. You managed to overcome something that other people wouldn't be able to. I get so many comments from people talking about how afraid they are to wear this fashion, and you're already 3 chords deep. And the truth of the matter is that while it is incredibly common and understandable for you to compare yourself to others, especially at this age when everything is so intense and new and you don't know your place in the world and you're surrounded by people that seem to know everything and have it all figured out. But it'll help you to know that if your life was a book, you're essentially on the first page. Why would you compare yourself to people who are in the middle, dealing with plot twists and all sorts of nonsense? They don't have it figured out. They're not even done with the first draft. And here you are, scared just because the first couple of paragraphs aren't perfect. Meanwhile, some people haven't even started writing the book, haven't even joined Lolita, too afraid to touch a petticoat. You are doing so much better than you give yourself credit for, and your shrinking does not do the courage you have displayed by even wearing Lolita justice. You deserve better from yourself. And I want you to take this to heart. I want you to look at your life as it stands from your own lens. Not other people's experiences, not other people's accomplishments, because while they may look perfect on the outside, they are struggling with things that you will never know. And it's very likely that the people around you have no idea that you're struggling with this and see you just as perfect as you see them. And may, in fact, in some cases, even be a little intimidated by you. Let's take the non-Lolitas, the Lolitas at heart who haven't even started the fashion. You must be incredibly intimidating. You have 3 dresses. You're a full-on Lolita. But you don't see that in yourself because you're too busy focusing on the things that you don't have. And those things, while not the be-all, end-all, are incredibly attainable and come with time. If you want a bigger wardrobe, give it time. It took me 10 years to get where I am. And this community will not judge you in the meantime for wearing off-brand. Off-brand and Taobao, as much as I like to make jokes out of them because I play a mean Lolita character on the internet, is incredibly accepted in Lolita fashion. Incredibly. The LiveJournal days where it was like a running gag, like, ew, Taobao. That's not a common Lolita thought anymore. Like, that's maybe on anonymous boards that you don't want to go to unless you want to chip away pieces of your soul. But in the larger Lolita community, off-brand, Taobao, indie brand, that is all the rage. People love to find something unique that others don't own. So I hope you take that to heart. And one more note on the adult-only spaces. From what I know of most comms, they are incredibly accepting of minors, especially minors in your age range. 17? It's not like you're in fracking diapers. Call me again and be worried if you're 10, all right? I'm gonna be super concerned if a 10-year-old's toddling around after me. All you need to do is honestly ask the host of the meetup if it's okay if you come if you're worried about your age. It's very likely to be okay if they're going anywhere other than a nightclub or a bar. And the only way you're going to find out is if you do it, because that is the only way to find out, is to do the thing that you're afraid of. And it is uncomfortable, and it is hard, and it does not mean it is going to solve all your problems overnight, but it is worth the effort because you are worth it. You are worth investing time and love and just hope in yourself and what you want to do with your life. And you don't deserve to shrink. You don't deserve to make yourself smaller or to disappear from the community because there are people waiting to know you. And I hope you don't give up because that one therapist was a shitbird. I hope you find another one, and I hope you continue to fight this because I know how hard an eating disorder is. I know how much of your energy and your joy it can obliterate. But it is not impossible to overcome it, and you deserve the peace within your own body that comes from moving beyond society's or this community's expectations of you. And I wish you luck and strength and support as you move forward. Don't give up. Find another therapist. Talk to someone. Reach out to your community and allow yourself to enjoy this fashion. I'm wishing you the best, A. I hope it helps. All right, I know that wasn't particularly funny, but I swear we have a nice wholesome story next to take the edge off, and our next story comes from Bean. And Bean says, I got into Lolita fashion back when I was in high school. I've never had intentions of becoming a lifestyle Lolita, as I love too many other fashion styles, so I've mostly collected OPs since then. I was lucky enough to get to study abroad in Japan for 2 summers once I hit college, and got some more off-brand pieces. Where I was studying didn't have a brand store, truly heartbreaking. After getting to shop in Japan, I had a few more JSKs than I was used to, and I've been struggling for a bit with how to wear them, as I have like 2 blouses and neither are neutrals. Fast forward to now, and I'm set to start my senior year in college, and I'm trapped at home because I'm chronically ill, and people in 2020 are too self-absorbed to wear a mask so I won't die. Recently, my mom went through a major surgery though, so it ended up being very good timing for us personally that I'm on 100% at home quarantine. With her unable to really move at all due to recovering, I've been having to help her with everything. So we've been spending a lot more time together than we have in my literal entire life. For since I've been a Lolita, she thought it was a costume thing. I also cosplay, so it's not entirely her fault. And on a whim, randomly one night, I put on some videos about Lolita for her. Now, even though she's always kind of questioned why I would want to wear Lolita as clothes and not a costume, she's always been supportive. But we've started binging Lolita content, mainly yours and Lore's, and she started to get it. She had me pull out my collection of Lolita and show her every dress and how they are on. From all the videos she's been watching, I'm catching her doing so in her free time now that she's a bit more mobile. She's gotten a great grasp of the basics. The real heartwarming part is that a few days ago, she went through all the devil-inspired store pages with me and noticed how many accessories there were and how sad my collection of not dresses for Lolita was. The next day, she insisted on writing me a check for $400 to buy tights, other petticoat cuts, blouses, head accessories, and general pieces to build my wardrobe. We also had watched some videos of Disney Lolita Day, and I explained to her that one of my dream dresses was in it and pointed it out. I ran into it the literal next day on Lace Market, but had just spent the money she gave me. She made me sit down and buy it and insisted on paying for it without taking no as an answer. I also found that print in a different cut a few days later, and now I'll have both OP and JSK of my dream dress because of videos like yours. Don't worry about the money. She didn't empty the bank to help me with the fashion. I know this is a bit of a different story from what you get normally, and I won't be offended at all if it never makes it to YouTube. But I thought it was a pretty wholesome story about Lolita and hope it will warm your salty heart. Also, she insisted in planning a trip to Disney for Disney Lolita Day because she now sees how much the fashion is community and events. Love, Bean. Well, Bean, I am actively losing my voice, but I have to say it was absolutely worth it to read a story that fracking heartwarming. It gave me all the warm fuzzies, and especially after the serious content we just went through, which was important to go through. It is especially nice to hear stories like this because of how common it is in the Lolita community for parents not to support their fracking children. I always want to smack those parents, and I know why. I may not know why every parent gets all like about Lolita, but I know why some do. And some do so in the twisted notion of love. They don't want their kid to be picked on or seen as a weirdo or ostracized, so that I get. But some parents are just pricks. That's probably gonna play really well with the teenage audience, I feel like. But seriously though, some parents are just pricks. Now your mom and dad won't let you watch me anymore, but some are. That's something you find out as an adult, is that some parents are just dicks. They just are. That's just how it is. And you only really get to come to terms with that when you get into your mid-20s and that like teenager haze is finally gone and you can finally look at it with a semi-objective eye, like, was I being a shit dick or were they being a prick? That's about when you can figure it out. And by then you'll know, unless you're just too traumatized. Which happens. Wow, that got dark. Let's take it back to the warm fuzzies. This story gives me so many fucking warm fuzzies because I love that even though your mom didn't understand it at first, she still supported you in it. Like she still thought it was a costume, which is fully understandable for someone who's outside of the Lolita community. Like that's totally understandable that they would think that. We're dressed like fracking Mary Poppins half the time. But the fact that these extenuating circumstances, these struggles and stresses that you've been forced to go through, both with your mother's surgery and with world events, it actually gave you the room to grow your bond and to allow your mom to see something that you were so passionate about in a much fuller context. Now, how that happened from watching any of my videos, I don't know. I would think that would send a sane person screaming in the other direction. But maybe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I mean, if she's your mother, then maybe she can handle whatever this is supposed to be. But I just want to say, especially if she's gonna watch this, like, kudos to you. Good job. Good fracking job. You are doing something that a lot of moms out there, from the things that I have read and the things that I have discussed with other people, there are a lot of moms that could learn from you. If there was a world's best mom button, I'd be throwing it in your general direction right now. Like, this is some high-key amazing motherhood stuff going down right here, and I'm getting a little bit sentimental about it. I love that though you were both going through challenges, you with your disability, your mom recovering from surgery, the entire world melting down around you, you still found space to spend quality time with each other and to invest the energy in strengthening that bond. And I just think that is the most magical, amazing thing to read about. And I absolutely adore little stories like this because my life is essentially employed in reporting on the worst dregs of humanity, entirely sober, for reasons I will never understand. I need to start doing every one of these shows with whiskey is what I'm saying. Your fracking mother-child bond over here is gonna like kill me. I'm gonna die on this, and I'm gonna die happy, but still, how dare you put such nice, faith in humanity, rehabilitating content before my face? I had already written off this species as a lost cause, and here you are dragging me back on the fracking platform. How dare you? I jumped off myself. Let me go. It is so much easier to be cynical. But in all seriousness, you guys' relationship is fracking precious. Like, seriously, I love that even though she was probably in a heck ton of pain with that surgery and God knows on how many meds, she still took the time to get to know her child just a little better. It's such a small gesture to the extent that she invested her own resources into seeing her child be able to further a passion. That is fracking amazing. That is A+ parenting right there. And I'm not saying parents need to go out, write $400 checks and start buying dream dresses, but if you have the means, let's go back to your message. This is a fracking heartwarming story. I wish you two the absolute best. Thank you for sharing this with me. I honestly needed this. I honestly needed to hear a story about a supportive parent and their awesome child who's into Lolita, and they got even closer, and now they're even happier together. Like, that's some Studio Ghibli shit, where everyone's like a better person at the end. Like, look what you did. Why would you do this to us? Now we're gonna be thinking that there's hope for the world. Look what you did. At the risk of developing some kind of optimism, I'm going to end today's video here. Thank you, Bean, for this wonderful fracking story. You and your mother are fucking fantastic, and you made my fucking day. Seriously. And send me more stories like this. Those of you out there watching, whose souls are torn asunder by every single thing I put on the internet. More happy stories. Balance this shit out. And again, I wish you guys the absolute best. I hope she recovers, and I hope you manage to rejoin society after we're no longer ruled over by a host of lobotomized gophers. Our country is essentially handling COVID like a ship without a rudder. We're just drifting through chaos, and it's only gonna get worse from here. So I'm wishing you all the best while we drift through shark-infested waters, is what I'm trying to say. So let's get to the outro. This has been Tyler. You've been watching Scarfing Scarves, and should you like to submit to this show, you can send your tea and/or queries to imtellingtyler@gmail.com. I'd like to thank my patrons for making this entire experience possible. This is on you guys. And should you like to join their number, you can head over to patreon.com/lastweeklolitanews for more content that is best not viewed by anyone ever for any reason at all. I'm gonna go film a video in a closet. Thanks again, guys. I'll catch you next time.